COVID was so hard for nurses. It was just, it was madness. It was
Yeah.
like, so you would wear the full PAPR suit. So that's head to toe.
Wow.
But I was pregnant with my fourth. And it, like, I
Rachel.
remember like running, and it was night, so I'd run into a patient room, fully gowned.
Yeah.
And then I would get them, settled, hooked up, do their assessment. And then I would like run out and rip off my mask and puke in a trash can. And then I'd put it on again, go to the next room. I had one of those moments where I was like, what am I doing? I am killing myself working these night shifts. And then I come home and I didn't even want to watch the kids. So I would sleep an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I would be back.
I'm Becky Brouwer, and I'm a Sendy Mom. Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast.
Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast. I am so excited to be here with my friend Rachel Lark, and we've known each other for, how long have you been here? Like a couple of years?
A little over 3.5 almost.
3.5 years. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I've been able to work with Rachel in some youth programs and things like that. But I honestly don't know a ton about you. So I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself. First of all, tell me, what do you think it means to be Sendy?
Well, first, I didn't even know what Sendy meant. I was like researching, like, what does Sendy mean? So for me, if there's something I want to accomplish, whether it's a craft or a house project or learning a new hobby, whatever it is, I have always been this way where I'm just like, I'm just going to try it. And to me, I figure if I fail, I can learn and then do it again.
Right.
And so for me, it's trying things that are out of my comfort zone.
Okay, so give me a little bit of your background. Like where did you grow up? What kind of a family? What were the family dynamics in your home?
So I grew up in Orem, Utah,
Okay.
25 minutes away. I am the second of 5.
Okay.
And I had a great childhood. I look back, and granted, I don't have a wonderful memory. I always tell my parents, I'm like, I don't remember as much as I wish I did. But I always kept a really good journal, so I can always, in like pictures, kind of spark memories. But my family, we were really close, the 5 of us kids. My parents were really good about keeping our family, like our values and our goals. It was consistent. It was not something that we say once a year. It was like they always were so focused on, how can we be better as a family? How can we help you be better as individuals, kids, teenagers?
Yeah.
And I just have so much respect for my parents, because as a parent today with my kids, I'm like, they must have constantly been focusing on, okay, how can I help you? What is something that you're working on? What are your goals? So
and they did it mainly from they like took
they
you
would take us
personally, and so it wasn't like, did you have overarching family values or goals?
Yeah, I actually was thinking about them last night. And I was like, okay. So they had a motto, and we said it all the time. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like, oh, Dad, we get it. But now I'm like, it's stuck. That the fact that I'm 35 and remember it. The first one was, so my maiden name's Herman. Herman's always look you in the eye, never lie, and try. And those are like the 3 things. Being honest, so never lying, never giving up, try.
Yeah.
And look you in the eye. They always are like, when people talk to you, when you wherever you are, you need to look them in the eye, have a conversation, have confidence. We don't want you just kind of, looking around.
Yeah.
And so that was our like Herman family motto, so they called it. And they had it printed out, and all the time they would make us repeat it. And then they had another one, and the acronym was PAHOMO: peace, asking, honesty, obedience, manners, and order. That one wasn't but that was another one. Be like,
okay,
they would say that, and you'd be like, okay, sorry, I need to do better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
those were really the values. So how did your parents come up with that? Do you know?
I don't even know. My parents,
it sounds to me like they were very deliberate in their parenting.
Very deliberate. My mom, she's a child psychiatrist.
Oh, okay.
And she's just very aware of, obviously with having, a specialty in pediatrics, kids and teenagers, and what works and what doesn't. Or if something is not working, you need to change it up. And I think my dad is just He's one of the best people I know. He accepts you as you are, and he's so loving. And then my dad, with all of his just empathy and just love for all of us kids, it just created a really strong parenting foundation. And they did family council every week. They called them PPIs, personal priesthood interviews.
Yeah.
And like they were both there, and maybe it's once a month, but they were just really good they were involved, and they were always there to help if we needed it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, how did they kind of encourage you in as far as risk taking, or was that encouraged at all?
So my parents I would say they're a little bit more risk averse. I think they're more trying to be
a little more on the cautious side.
A little more cautious. Let's make sure this is effective. Let's make sure this is the right way to do things.
Yeah.
And so I would say they're kind of in the middle. They would always say, try things, whether it's in Lake Powell, try the wakeboard, try the slalom ski. But they were also, be smart, be careful.
Yes.
It was like in Lake Powell, they would never let us not wear a life jacket.
Right.
They didn't want to risk us, Lake Powell's how deep, drowning.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt like, and they would totally disagree with me on this, but I felt like I was never a great swimmer because I always had to have a life jacket. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
And so I think they're smart. They've always been smart, whether it's with, like I said, finances or with our safety. Like we had so many rules growing up, but they also were saying, go and study abroad. I did a study abroad. I went on 2 humanitarian trips in high school to 2 third world countries. Like they wanted me to have those experiences
in a safe environment. Okay.
They were just kind of like, and my dad was ultimate. Like you always have to wear a helmet, no sleepovers, like all the things. Yeah. That was my parents.
And that doesn't necessarily, like that, you can marry both of them together.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I would say they were more cautious, but they always encouraged me to do whatever it was, whether it was trying out. I was a big soccer player, but one year I was like, I'm going to play softball. And they're like, great. Go for it. That was in high school. But whatever.
There wasn't pressure to do something that the family all does
But at the same time, they did. We all did piano. We all played soccer. And I think it was just, that's what the first couple started, and we had just followed.
Yeah. And you want your kids to do something, right? Yeah. So you encourage them to be involved in a sport, in a musical instrument, or, in something, so that they can feel like they're progressing. They've got something to work towards. So.
Yeah. And I look back at all the stuff they did, and I try to implement a lot of those things as I parent, me and James, as we parent. We think, okay, what things worked? What things did we like? And most of them were great.
Okay. So speaking of that, so how was James raised, and how was it different than the way that you were raised, and how have you implemented?
It was different.
Okay.
That was something when we first started having kids. I'm like, well, we're going to do this. And he would say, no, I didn't do that. I'm like, well, that's what I did. And it was kind of like, wait. So his parents were, he had amazing parents as well. My parents were a lot more structured, and a lot structured in, like, we didn't have a choice if we were going to come to family home evening. We didn't have a choice to wake up every morning and do scripture study. Like that was a non-negotiable.
Got it.
And my parents were pretty strict with, you have every morning I'd have a list of, these are all your chores. You need to do 30 minutes of piano. You need to do this, and it was like, you cannot do anything for yourself until everything is done.
Yeah.
And that was what I grew up with.
Well, and it seems like you thrived in that environment.
I did.
That was because you're still like that.
I am still like that. I am still that way. And I do that for my kids. Yeah. And it's funny because I have, ours is on like that Skylight calendar, and they have to mark off all the stuff, their chore, their piano, their reading.
Skylight calendar. Tell me about this.
Oh, have you not heard of those?
No.
Oh, they're amazing. It's like an electronic, it's a big white rectangular calendar.
Okay.
And you connect it to your phone. So everything you put in your calendar, it automatically goes to it. And each kid has a color. Okay. So, Liam has soccer practice, so I automatically put him in, and it goes to the calendar. So every morning they wake up and they say, okay, what do I have today? And they look through, and then it has like a task list for each kid, and it has It just has everything. It has like
I
meals.
would have loved this when I had little
It's the
kids
best.
because I was making charts all the time. Mine was more of like a whiteboard with every kid had their own color, or I had like this big poster board with their picture that they'd move across or whatever. But yeah, nice to have it all electronic.
Yeah,
so
it's great. It's really great.
That's really cool. Okay, so you've kind of taken that.
So I did that. That was how I grew up. And that was how I thrived.
Did you have some siblings that did not?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's my personality.
Yeah.
I always, getting a 4.0 was like, my parents didn't need to help me or remind me because that was reward enough to say, okay, I got all A's. Where not everyone's like that. You know?
I know. My children are not like that. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. I have my youngest, I can't really tell yet. He's too little, but I have 2 that are like that. Of the older 3, 2 that are definitely like that. They come home 100%. For one, he does not care. He's just like he wants to do well, but that doesn't fill his cup. Where for me, my parents never had to remind me to get an assignment done. I just did it because I had the satisfaction of, okay, I worked hard and here's my result. I got a great score.
See, and my husband and I, because we were like that too, but my children are totally not.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes. Why? Yeah.
I don't know. But some of my siblings were not that way. I would say me and my older sister were, and I would say my younger 3 were not. And I remember like my parents helping them with homework and reminding them to do stuff.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, and I don't think they'll ever, I don't know if they'd ever watch this, but if they did, I don't know if they would agree, but my older sister and I always say like, it was like we were raised differently. Like it was us 2 who they were pretty strict on us in terms of like, we expect you to clean the kitchen after dinner, you 2.
Yeah.
And we would just do it. Like that was just an expectation. Where the younger 3, it was like, just they I don't want to say needed more help, but they kind of demanded more attention from my parents.
Okay.
And we would laugh, my sister and I would say, for breakfast, we would be eating a bowl of cereal in the car as we're driving to school, or we're eating Eggo waffles and putting on our mascara. Where we remember my mom, and I don't know if it's because just as time goes
she had more time
I don't know,
them or something.
But she would be making them like fresh French toast and eggs. And we're like, you never did that for us. And she's like, yes, I did. And we're like, you don't remember, but we do. And so anyways, I think they just needed a little bit more help.
Okay.
And so I don't think they thrived as much on the structure of all the checklists. It was more like, I just remember them my mom and dad constantly being happy. And we had a nanny a lot growing up because my mom worked, being like, oh, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Where like, I didn't need a reminder. It was just like, I want to get it done so I can go hang out with my friends.
Right.
I even look at my oldest and my youngest, and just the other day, my oldest was Brady. He was like, you let Jace do stuff that I never could have done. And I'm like, you're right. Because I have 4 kids now. Like, I took you to the dinosaur museum and the different Thanksgiving point venues every week. Yeah. And your dad was traveling a lot for work, so I took you and your brother every week. Jace has been once this whole year. So, and this is something else my parents told me that I really value. Life is not fair. And they would, we'd be like, that's not fair because he got this and she got this. And they'd say, life's not fair.
Yep.
You can't compare because A, life is not fair. And B, it's just different.
Yeah. It's just different. You can't compare. And actually, I think that's a really valuable lesson to teach your children, that life is not fair and not to compare, because you're always going to wind up feeling sorry for yourself. And who wants to feel like that all the time?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I tell my kids the same thing, like, oh, well, she was in the car with me. So she got a ice cream at Costco, she came with me. So we did it, but we're not going to do that every time either.
No.
It's a little bit harder too, I find, to say no when you could say yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, I could take my kids every single day to get ice cream, but would that be good for them? No, I don't think so. So sometimes you just, and I try to say yes as much as possible, but at the same time, you have to balance that so your kids don't come to expect it. And so that's why I don't make my kids breakfast ever.
Yeah.
No, actually, no. The reason why I don't ever make my kids breakfast is because they would prefer cold cereal.
Yeah.
So
why are you
make
putting
them,
in?
yeah, why would I put the effort in when all they really want is just some cold cereal? So
Yeah.
that's what we do.
And back to your question, you asked
About
my
James.
husband and I.
Yeah.
He was raised, so like I said, mine was a lot more like there wasn't a choice involved. Like you are going to do these things. This is part of being in a family. You have to put in do your part. Where I think his family was more, he was one of 3 boys and they were all very different, just different interests, just very different.
Yeah.
And they kind of had a little bit more free reign in terms of like James, he was the middle child and his whole life was sports. And so he would play sports, he would ref sports as a job, but he would tell me, I would really fight my parents if it was like, hey, if they said, we're going to do this family thing, he'd be like, I want to be with my friends. And I think his mom got to a point where she just didn't have the fight in her. He was really stubborn. And he says now, and I have one kid who's that way, and it's hard. It's hard to raise kids who are pretty strong-willed. I think it wasn't worth the fight for her. They were great spiritual leaders in their family, and they did so many fun traditions, but I don't think there was the level of structure.
And it just goes to show that there are a lot of ways to raise a family, right?
And one's not better than the other.
No.
And that's why it's been interesting because I'll say, okay, they have to do all this stuff before they can play. And that's me knowing they want to play after school. After being there for 6 hours, they don't want to do their piano. They don't want to read. And so for me, it's like, I'm helping you, even though you don't see it at the time.
Right.
Where he's kind of like, he's never he'll support it because it's what I say.
Yeah,
like if I'm gone, he's like, oh, they might have done it. And I'm like, but we're just different. And,
sure.
And that's okay. That's
you
okay.
balance each other out because that's kind of what you're supposed to do. And I think it's fascinating when you bring 2 people together who are really good people who've been raised, in a different environment. And then the way that they put those things together to make
your own unit. New unit.
And you take the good things from what you've learned. And that's why every generation hopefully gets better because they're taking the good things and they're trying to integrate those into their own family and everything. So what are some of the things that you guys have done in your family to raise children who are more resilient and also to teach your children some of these values that are important to you? What do you value?
So a big focus that we really try to teach our children is we want our kids to just keep trying, never give up. And I think a lot of this generation, it's like, if they fail, it's like, oh, I'm not going to try again. And I want my kids I want them to lose the games. I want them to not succeed, not all the time, because I feel like the times that has happened, they come back and they work harder. And a perfect example, just the other day, my second son, Liam, he was doing this big test on the computer and reading these passages and having to answer these questions. And he's a kid who pretty much, gets 100% on everything he does. And he thrives on that. He always has. He's like a little mini me. But he kept not passing and he was like beside himself just because it doesn't happen very often for him.
Right.
And he kept saying, Mom, I'm not. And it was like, I read it and I was like, this is hard for 4th grade. I'm like, you're like reading about the history of the camera and how it was made and the projector. It was just like,
it was pretty intense, pretty heavy.
For 4th grade, I was like, I don't even know this. I'm like, let me look up what this is because I didn't know. And he kept being like, can you just do it, Mom? Can you just help me with these 2 questions? And I'm like, Liam, then you're not going to learn. And then the next time you have a test, when you have to really study a passage and you have to get certain answers, you're not going to know how to do it. And he was kind of frustrated. He's like, but you help so-and-so with this. And so, and I'm kind of like, and also my husband's he's been out of town a lot lately and he was out of town and one kid's asking me to practice their piano duet and one kid's asking me to help them get pajamas on. I was just like, I just can't. You need to do this. I know you're capable.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, fine. Kind of like, and then 20 minutes later, he's like, Mom, I figured it out. I got 100% and I did the next one and I did it right. And I was like, buddy, I'm so proud of you. What did you learn? And he's just like, I just needed to keep trying. And I was like, yeah. And so I just want my kids I just think life is going to knock you down time and time again.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be scared to keep trying. I'm like, I want them to keep trying.
And you're in the midst of all of this where it's kind of thankless a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I had a phone call from my 20-year-old last week, and he said, Mom, I just got 100% on my calculus test.
I love it.
And that is like so
You're like,
gratifying,
yes.
Like I didn't help him at all with
Yeah.
this calculus.
And the fact that he wanted to call you and tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
amazing.
So, it comes back around. So the things, sometimes you think that, you are just all the time to your
That's
children.
how I feel.
Right?
100%.
But eventually they start telling you things that you have told them, and you're
Mhm.
like, and they don't even know that it came from you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I try not to
Yeah.
feel bad about not getting the credit,
Yeah.
for that. I do remember my oldest son telling me one time when he was a teenager, he was like, oh yeah, so, this kindergarten teacher, this first grade teacher who taught me how to read. And I just looked at him. I was like, who taught you how to read?
Like what?
Like
What?
all
No.
those hours
and hours.
suffering. We put in so much effort into our families and to our
Yeah.
children, and it's and we want to make sure that they recognize that because that is where we get our joy, is putting those hours in. But we need to have a little bit of
Validation,
recognition.
yeah.
And
It doesn't happen very
validation.
often.
No, it doesn't.
And my hope is like one day I have this little 52 modern manners for kids, and one of them, the one that I feel like has stuck the most, which is funny because I wouldn't have thought that originally, but it's be a problem solver. And I heard the other day one of my younger kids was like, I just can't get this to fit, and they're frustrated. And one of my older kids goes, just be a problem solver, figure it out. You can do it. And then they're like, okay, and they did it. And then afterwards they're like, Mom, I was a problem solver. I'm like, good job.
So good.
And it was like, he didn't even realize that I had talked about that so many times, but now that phrase in our home happens all the time. Be like, I can't get this buckle in and be a problem solver. And
That's
they're like,
so good.
okay, take off my coat.
And we have that one too. It's 52. What's it called? 50?
It's Brooke Romney's.
Yeah, Brooke
52
Romney.
Modern
Okay.
Manners for Kids.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, they've got two.
They have a
she's got
teen
two of
one,
them. Yeah,
too.
they're so good. Yeah.
Yeah. We love those. We go through them all the time.
Yeah, we go through them too. Or we did for a while. My kids are getting a little older now, but and now they're perfect. They kind of know all the manners, so they're pretty good.
Yeah. Good.
Not really.
No, I'm sure they're great.
I think I'm still working on it.
I know.
So sometimes I look through those. I'm like, I could
oh,
probably
yeah.
do that a little bit better.
Right? Always improving.
So you are also a nurse, right?
Mhm.
So where did you go to school, and how did that come about? Why did you decide that course of that path?
So I always was interested in medical. There's the medical world always, and maybe because my mom, I don't know, but even little age, I would want to watch like doctor shows, and I went on these 2 humanitarian trips. One after my junior year, I went to the Philippines, and then after my senior year, I went to Fiji. And
was it through HXP?
Back then, it wasn't called that.
Oh, it was humanity, or
it was
EFY or HF.
I can't remember what it was, but it turned into that. But yeah, so the first one was called Vaccines for the Philippines. And we brought a bunch of doctors over, and then a bunch of us, high school students. And we had a whole medical clinic. And there was like a station for circumcisions, like for these 10-year-old boys. I remember it was called Tuli, Tuli. And the fact that I remember that.
Yeah.
And then there was a section for pulling teeth, and there was just a bucket, and they were just, because we were in this tiny island that had no healthcare, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
And these people couldn't afford it,
Right.
And so there was a line for that, and then there was, it was pretty crazy. And we helped in whatever way we could. So I did these 2 humanitarian trips, and I loved the medical aspects of it more than like the building the bathrooms, which we did, but I loved the medical part. I thought I wanted to be a doctor for a long time, but I saw how much, and my mom had a lot of flexibility, but even so, she worked a lot. We had nannies all growing up, and I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted to be home more. And so I decided on being a nurse because I could make my own schedule. I could change. I could go to a new area. I could work part-time. I could work PRN. So but I also was a big soccer player, and I also had a dream of playing soccer.
Okay.
And to make a really long story short, I had talked to some colleges that wanted to give me some scholarships, and I ended up having some really, I had something called a compartment syndrome, which basically the muscles in your lower legs were compressing so tightly in that compartment that I was having nerve damage and I had a foot drop. So my foot would just drag.
And this was in high school?
I was big. I played soccer for the school. I played club soccer. It was year-round soccer.
Lots.
And it was from that.
Okay.
And anyways.
That's scary. So I've
had 3 surgeries.
You've had
3
surgeries.
So I have scars about this long on both my calves.
Okay.
I did the surgery, but my foot would just drag, and I thought I just kept spraining my ankle. So I'd wear an ankle brace all the time to like pick it up. And we were at a state game, and we had a trainer from BYU come to tape us, and he said, "Okay, lift up your foot." I said, "Oh, I can't lift my foot at all." And he was like,
"This is a problem."
And he's like, "Sprint from here to there." And I would pick up my hip, because my foot wouldn't lift. And he's like, you're going to walk with a cane permanently if you don't get this fixed.
Yeah.
So they go and just like checking tire pressure, they put a big needle in, and anyways, so they did surgery. And then that was my junior year. And then it happened on my left leg, and they did surgery. And then in college, I was just, at this point, they said, you cannot play college soccer because this will keep happening.
Yeah.
And you will be permanently.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's scary.
So my dream of soccer kind of got dashed, and it was pretty hard. I was like, man, I worked so hard.
Yeah.
But I went to BYU. I was like, I'll just focus on nursing. And then in my, I was doing intramurals. I was like, I can just do intramurals. It's like a little bit. I remember I was walking on campus. I was engaged, and I could feel it, like it was starting to drop again. And I was like, no. And I remember calling my husband, and he plays football. He played football for BYU, and they were at an away game that weekend. And I just was like sobbing, and I said, "It's back. I'm going to need surgery again. I can't lift up my foot." And I remember leaving him a voicemail because he couldn't answer, and just being devastated. I'm like, am I going to be on crutches at my wedding?
Yeah.
And anyways, I got the surgery. They did it a little different. Instead of just like cutting open the fascia, this is probably might be too, but
technical.
They ended up
it's okay.
removing it. That whole anterior compartment of my leg, there's no fascia that holds the muscle together. It's just, so if you touch it, it's just like loose.
Really?
Yeah, because otherwise it was like, think of like meat being packed.
Okay.
It's on styrofoam, and then there's the saran wrap, right?
Yeah.
So the meat's the muscle, styrofoam is the bone, and then the wrap is the fascia.
Got it.
So that was compressing so tightly with the muscle growing bigger than the compartment of the leg. And I think because I played soccer constantly.
Yeah.
They would go in and they'd cut the fascia. That was called a fasciotomy. So they would cut it, and it's called
so that your muscle could expand.
Yeah. So it's called a compartment syndrome release, and they usually only do those surgeries. Sometimes post-abdominal surgery, the pressure goes so high in there, they have to go and cut it. You've probably seen it on like medical show where they're like, emergency fasciotomy, and they just, put the betadine and then just like cut it. But the other, if like marathon runners, sometimes that'll happen, rarely.
Yeah.
So it's really, really rare that it happened not from like an injury or surgery.
It was just overuse.
And even my surgeon, Dr. Fox down in Provo, was like, I've never seen this. I want to do a whole case study, because at that point he'd done 2 surgeries on me. And then this last time when it grew back after having the surgery, they did a fasciectomy where they just removed it. Instead of cutting it, they took it away.
Yeah, because of your body, I guess. Because that's just the way that your body...
genetically have, like my dad has really like muscular legs, and just like muscular, dense muscle.
I told you that before. I'm like, you have like the best calves.
Oh my, you're nice. Well, you say that, but they also caused me problems, right?
No,
so like my dad's calves are huge. So I genetically got his muscular, like even everywhere, like just muscular. And my legs, just with all the overuse, with how big they were naturally, and then with constant, making them bigger with sport. It just didn't fit, apparently.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing.
So, and that kind of brought you, like, you were kind of fascinated with that too. So that kind of made you interested more in nursing as well.
Yeah. So I couldn't do soccer because of all this. That's what I was getting at. So I decided, okay, that's off the table because I can't play college soccer. And then I was like, you know what? I love medical things and I can't do soccer, so I'm going to do nursing. So I went to BYU, got in the nursing program there. And the rest is history.
And you're still you still are really into exercise. You do a lot of exercise. And so have you had any problems with that, or do you just kind of try to avoid that muscle?
Yeah, I'm careful. When I was doing CrossFit back, years ago, there were times when it would flare up and I'd be like, I need to like cool it. I'll never be a marathon runner because with no fascia in that part of my leg, when I do run long distances, it really swells
Oh,
because there's
okay.
no fascia holding it in there, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
hmm
So I'm careful with what I do. And if I feel I can feel that pressure when it gets too high, I
Uh-huh.
really have to like, it's happened in my forearms too, a couple times where I can feel the pressure so high and I kind of start to lose some of that motion in my arms.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
so when that happens, I really have to just rest, take it back. So I've learned with like how I lift, when I lift heavy,
Uh-huh.
I'm careful with certain muscle groups and certain lifts just because it's just too hard not to be able to have that function.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a good lesson too with like being Sendy. You want to try everything and
Mhm.
you want to push through and whatever, but there are limits.
Yeah.
And you need to understand what your limits are and be okay with that and say, "Hey, I gave everything.
Yeah.
And now it's time
And you
to
have to
look somewhere
adjust,
else and
pivot,
adjust."
and
Yeah.
that's what I had
Yeah.
to do because there were things I loved to do and I just kind of soccer and things like that. I'm
hmm
like, I can't really do that anymore. This is such a rare thing that even happened in the first place. Like he said, he'd never done it on
Haven't seen
someone who
it.
just,
Yeah.
especially 3 times.
Yeah.
Um, but you just kind of pivot and I still work out every day but I don't really have issues with it. And if I notice, if I do like after I hiked Timp, I was like, oh man, like this most like that.
It's
I
happening.
need to like ice it, elevate it, and just like lay low for a few days to
Yeah,
get
and the
that swelling.
nursing probably kind of helped you to understand your body a little bit better too. So, okay, so tell me about the path with nursing. What did you
Yeah.
start out with? And
So, while in school, I wanted to work because I was married and he was gone with football all the time. So, I worked as an LPN. So I took so in nursing, you can be a CNA, which is
Mhm.
like a nurse assistant, and then
Yeah.
LPN, which is in between a CNA and RN. And I worked at the Utah State Hospital in Provo, the mental hospital,
Oh, okay.
and I was a med nurse. So, and my mom works there too. She's the director over
Okay.
pediatric and adolescents there. So I mean,
What
I
was
saw
that
her.
like? Like, can you tell any stories about how what would that was like?
It was it was wild. I
Were
looking
you
back.
ever afraid?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're in a little med room with glass. Most
Okay.
people are like they have committed a lot of them serious crimes,
Yeah.
but they are deemed mentally
Unstable.
unstable, and so basically will live in that mental. It's a long term mental hospital
Uh-huh.
and psychiatric hospital, and you could tell and I could read through their charts. I remember there was one man he had personality disorder.
Schizophrenia
Not
or
schizophrenia, not bipolar.
bipolar?
It was, it was
Um,
a kinda like a narcissistic personality disorder,
oh,
but
oh,
he
oh,
was
borderline
yeah, it
personality.
was like borderline.
Okay. Yeah.
There was like very specific, I can't remember exactly what it was, but
Okay.
he was so manipulative and tricky, and I saw it. I saw it with the staff. I
Okay.
saw it when he'd come to me. He's kind of a handsome guy, and he would like, "Can I also have some of this?" And no, you cannot. And he thought that by his looks and just this charm
Yeah,
that he
the
could get
term.
whatever he wanted. And I remember
Yeah.
when I would be out of the med room, whether it was like having to give a shot or whatever, there was times where I would like see him watching and I'd be like,
A little creepy.
it was creepy. And there's one guy, I'm not going to say his name obviously for HIPAA reasons, but when he would get mad, he would just like chuck stuff at the med window, chuck the insulin needles because he didn't want to get any more insulin. I mean, there were
Yeah.
times on the pediatric unit, I I was out walking around and there was a kid that was mad that he had to get his meds, and I was the med nurse. I mean, I just handed the meds, but he was
Yeah.
mad.
Uh-huh.
Grabbed his shoe, chucked it at me. I ducked, barely didn't get hit in
My
the head. I was
goodness.
pregnant at the time. I was like, that is not okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there was some. I mean, they try to keep you as safe as they can, but
Right.
it is what it is.
Things just happen. So, how long were you there?
I was there, probably 2 years,
Yeah.
just working through nursing school.
Okay.
Maybe a year and a
Was
half.
it valuable though? Do you feel
Oh,
like
I
you
learned so
learned a
much.
ton? Yeah.
I learned a lot about med management because you have, 30 people on the unit and you're in charge of all their meds. And I learned a lot about mental illness just because I was
Yeah.
around it. I saw it. I saw the
And how
kids.
cool that your mom was there too. You
Yeah.
could kind of talk to each other and she
Mhm.
could teach you. You could either become hardened a bit about it because of
Mhm.
the fear, or or maybe both and get
Yeah.
some empathy and some compassion for
I would
people.
say more empathy because these people didn't choose this.
No.
They don't want this.
Yeah.
And I think because I worked there and just with being around my mom, I am a lot more aware
Mhm.
of even small mental illness,
Yeah.
small on the diagnosis scale, whether it's ADHD or autism or whatever it is.
Mhm.
I'm like hyper aware of it. And so
Okay.
I see it, whether
Mhm.
it's with friends of my kids and I'll see something and I'm just kind of like, and I think I have a lot more understanding and a lot
Okay.
more lenience toward it because I'm like, they're trying their best, and this is
Yeah.
their brain. They have their brain works a little bit differently than a
Yeah.
neurotypical child, and that's okay. And so I've always tried to be really just understanding. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are very impatient, get really frustrated really easily. And, one of my closest friends, she has children that struggle with these things. And I see it. I see how hard they're trying and but their brains are just not neurotypical. They're neurodivergent and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I wish people kind of gave them a little bit more grace.
Yeah. I had a friend on the show, Marcy Morrison, and she's got some neurodivergent kids, and
Yeah.
she talks about like she lives in New York, and people have not been as nice to them as because I feel like our neighborhood has treated
Oh,
neurodivergent
yeah,
kids
they're really
very
good.
well,
Yeah.
and these kids grow up in a great environment, but her kids just really haven't. They've had people be very mean.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Like I just think how
Yeah, one of her kids got somebody when a kid took a fire hydrant off the wall and thought it would be really funny to just spray this kid all up and down
oh,
with the foam and
oh
everything. Like, yeah, I mean, granted, these are children that are being mean, and I was mean as a child. I remember things that I did or said that
yeah.
were really mean, and so we don't want to excuse them, but we also don't want to label them as bullies or mean kids, right? It's very
It's tricky.
complex,
Yeah, it's a
right?
complex. I I've really tried to teach my kids, just because I've been around this so much. Like I said, like my friend, she has a son with Down syndrome, and it's him and my youngest are like a week apart, and it's actually been so tender to watch them. All my kids just love him, and they
Yeah.
just Penny is the best, and
Yeah.
it's never been like
He's so
negative.
annoying or he's so, yeah.
Yeah,
Why is he so
because
weird?
he's obviously a lot behind.
Yeah.
He's not talking as much, and they're a week apart, Jason and him. But like they love him. Like Jason's like,
Yeah.
"Where's my friend Baby Benny?" Is what he calls him, just because he's
Oh, because he's
a couple
younger
years behind.
mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And like intellectually, he's just a little bit farther behind. And I I try to as much as I can tell my kids like Benny has so many amazing talents
Yeah.
that are different than yours,
Yeah.
and they love him. Even my older kids will go and play with him and he'll
Yeah.
throw stuff and they just laugh and he laughs. And anyways, I just think it's especially
They're innocent. It's easy to love these
yes.
innocent
And
people.
to expose kids that do not have those things
Right.
to say, okay, they're different, but different is okay. And
Yeah.
that's something I've really tried to teach my kids, whether it's race, nationality, religion. It's okay to be different. You love
Yeah.
everyone because God loves everyone.
That's right.
And it's something I keep having to reiterate, but it's like it's sticking. I can
And
tell.
we need more of that,
Yeah.
in the world, and even, in our political climate or whatever is very divisive
Yeah.
and very polarized and everything. If we could just get to a point where we just can see each other as human
Yes.
beings rather than this party or that party or this race or that race or whatever. But
About halfway through this episode of the Sendy Mom Podcast, and I want to pause for just a moment. I know as you're listening, someone has probably come to mind, a friend, a sister, a neighbor, someone who needs to hear that they're not alone, that it's not too late, and that they can still show up courageously in their life. If that's true, take a minute right now to share this episode with them. Sometimes one story of courage and resilience is exactly what someone needs to keep going. One of the very best ways to support the Sendy Mom Podcast, a podcast about motherhood, personal growth, and brave women doing hard things, is to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a review and subscribe on our website at sendymom.com. Those simple steps help this podcast reach more women who are looking for hope, connection, and encouragement. You can also find Sendy Mom on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and always online at sendymom.com. I am so excited about the incredible lineup of women we'll be hearing from over the next few months. Stories filled with faith, resilience, leadership, and personal transformation. Be sure to keep coming back for more conversations about living a Sendy life. My next guest is Amy Antonelli, the CEO of HXP, an incredible program that provides spiritual humanitarian experiences for teenagers. You won't want to miss that episode. And don't forget to join us for the next Sendy Mom Tea Party. We'll be talking about some of the Mountain Mama adventures mentioned in Jen Drummond's episode and choosing one to participate in together. We'll gather on Wednesday, February 11th at 10 o'clock a.m. You can register under the events tab at sendymom.com. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to receive the weekly Sendy Mom newsletter, which includes a blog post connected to each week's episode. I love getting to know my neighbors, friends, and new friends through this podcast. Rachel is such a beautiful example of a Sendy Mom, someone who continues to use her gifts to bless others. That's what this community is all about. Now, let's get back to the rest of our conversation.
So nursing, sorry, I keep getting distracted, but finished nursing school. I did my capstone, which is the last semester of nursing school. It's kind of like an internship, essentially, where you're a student nurse, but you're working in the same unit for like the last 4 months.
Okay.
And occasionally they'll hire you on to work as a nurse.
Right.
And once you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the ICU, which they normally don't hire new grads to the ICU just because it's the intensive care unit. It's,
it's pretty intense.
It's intense.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of jumping off the deep end.
Yeah.
But I loved the challenge. And I really enjoyed working in the ICU. I constantly had to be on my game because if you made a mistake, they could die. And they were already on that edge.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned so much. I was at Utah Valley. I worked full time, and one of the apostles' wives was in there, and she was there for weeks. And they try to continue continuity of care, like keep you with them because you kind of know.
Yeah.
And so I worked night shifts, and every night shift I'd take care of her when she was there, and he would come in, and it was really neat to see like this man of God, and I was just in awe of him. This man who he was so tired. I could just see it. He had this little notebook, and he'd have his suit on, and he would go down to the cafeteria to get some food, and people would come up to him. Can you give my loved one on the 7th floor a blessing? Can you come to the 2nd floor? My daughter had surgery. He would write down the name and the room number, and instead of being with his wife, who was terribly sick, he was called as an apostle, and he would go from room to room.
Just ministering.
Blessing, ministering, and and he would finally get up and just be like, and I just had so much respect for him. And anyways, I had so many experiences in the ICU. I took care of a sister missionary from the MTC who had come here from Fiji, and she had leprosy. And
really,
I mean, it was, anyways, I won't go into more detail, but I learned so much from the ICU. I learned so much about empathy and how to love people, especially in kind of when they're going through the worst time of their entire life. And I also learned how to be a competent, compassionate nurse.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of things like hinge on your decisions there too. That must have been really hard, especially right out of school to have those decisions, like life or death kinds of decisions. So,
and I had things thrown at me. I had people, I've been grabbed. A lot of them are sedated or waking up from sedation or whatever. People do not give nurses enough credit. Like the stuff that they endure in those 12-hour shifts, they're heroes in my mind.
They really are.
So I did that, and I was pregnant during a lot of it with my first. And then I kind of got burnt out because a lot of our patients in the ICU are sedated, and a lot of them are really large. And so just me being 5'4" and just a smaller person, having to turn them every hour and having to change their bed when they had soiled their bed. There was it was really physically taxing, especially with being pregnant. And
I can see that. Yeah.
And I just, after a few years, I kind of was like, it's time. They were doing some changes with the different ICUs. And I said, this is a perfect time to just change. So I went to the ER.
Yeah. Okay.
And the ER was
Also very stressful, I would imagine.
yeah, it was in a different way. In a different way. I loved the ER because you never knew what was going to come in the door. It's like, is it a baby? Is it a motor vehicle crash? Is it a laceration? Is it a stroke? Whatever it is,
Yeah.
you just you don't know, and you always have to be on your game. And so obviously, I liked this high pressure situations. I think being on the floor, we have 7 patients, and they all had surgery, and they all need help up to go to the bath. That would have, I think, just sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
Where in the ICU you could only have 2 patients max, and then in the ER kind of the same. You don't have as many and kind of quicker turnover. And so I just liked the change of pace.
Yeah.
I liked taking care of kids. I liked, it was just different, and I really liked that. And I feel like that stint I had in the ER was so helpful for me as a mom now. I use it. I use my knowledge and experience all the time.
Okay, so you're the one I should be calling.
People call me probably once a week.
Really?
My son, here's a picture. He has a big,
Gash in
in his head.
Yeah.
What should I do? Is this broken? What should I do with this rash? Like, I get texts. I can't tell you how many people I have done staples on, like on my friends' kids.
Yeah?
I've done multiple heads.
Do you so you have special surgical?
I have staple
gun?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just last 2 weeks ago, one of my friend's sons was in the ICU for a while, and they had done put a stent in
or something.
They'd done a stent in, and they sewed it up, and they were supposed to take out the stitches before he left the hospital, and there was so much going on, they didn't take him out. And so she called me. She's like, we cannot get this. It's like tucked up under his neck. Could you come take him out? And I'm like, I'm so grateful that I can use that skill set. I went over there, was able to get him out. And I use it for my kids all the time. I use it for friends' kids. I use it for, like I said, at least once a week. It's, what should I do here?
Yeah, I mean, that's really any knowledge that you gain, you're going to be able to use it for good somewhere. So you just have to look around.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so
I did that. I did the ER all the way into COVID. And at that point, I always worked nights because I have my kids in the day.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Okay.
And it kind of.
And was James still traveling?
Yeah. I mean, he traveled a lot at the beginning.
So when he was gone and you were gone, did you have some like a nanny or something that was helping?
No. I mean, I would have to change my shifts around if he was gone.
Oh.
And so I just kind of always made it work.
Got it.
It was during COVID, and COVID was so hard for nurses. It was just, it was madness. It was like,
tell me about that.
Especially in the ER. And so you would wear the full PAPR suit. So that's head to toe.
Wow.
But I was pregnant with my 4th. And it,
Rachel.
I remember running, and it was night, so I'd run into a patient room, fully gowned.
Yeah.
And then I would get them, settled, hooked up, do their assessment. And then I would run out and rip off my mask and puke in a trash can. And then I'd put it on again, go to the next room. And it was I had one of those moments where I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What? My husband has a job that provides for us financially.
Yeah.
I am killing myself working these night shifts. And then I come home and I didn't even want to watch the kids. So I would sleep an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then I would be back. And granted, I didn't work full time. I just worked, part-time.
Yeah.
Very part-time at this point. But still, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This has become so difficult I just dread it because I would be so tired because I'd be awake 24 hours. And I'd go home, sleep a few hours, a couple hours, and then I'm back at it. And then that kind of screwed my schedule up for the next couple days.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just.
It's too much. And
it was
and especially during COVID, because I know there was so much required of nurses that they were
went
not.
through.
Yeah.
So I just went to my manager and I was just kind of like, I'm going to have to take a little. And she's like, I'm actually shocked you lasted as long as you did. I thought for sure you would have got out sooner. I was almost due. And in the meantime, a friend said, you know what, you should look into doing injections. That's a great job to do as a mom because you set your own hours. And I was kind of like, that's never been on my radar. I've never gotten injections as in Botox fillers. I'm like, I've never gotten them before. That's just not my style. That's not me. And she's like, you should look into it because you can make good money, but you can do it when the kids are napping. You can do it when
Yeah.
they're in school. And I
Set
was
your own
like,
hours.
yeah. And I was
Mhm.
like, no. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, own hours would be really nice. And the more I talked to people, I'm like, and I had friends that said, you should do it because I want it done. And
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and I just and I just kept niggling in my mind, like, you should look into this. You should look into this.
Yeah.
And this is in the summer of 2020.
Okay.
So I was still working
Yeah.
as a nurse during COVID. And so I was like, what the heck? I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So I went to a course, got certified. I had a friend do it with me. She was another ER nurse. I'm like, let's do it together.
Uh-huh.
And I just said, okay, I'm going to try this. So I started practicing on people that wanted it, for a lot less money than it cost to go to a med spa, just as I was practicing. And I realized the transition from the ER where you're numbing for lacerations, you're doing things IVs constantly, which are a lot harder than injections.
Yeah.
At least the basic injections. I was like, this is a really easy transition. Like, this is easy.
I can do this in my sleep. I know exactly where to put the needles.
Well, and it's like, I know how much give. I know where to twist, how to hold my hand. Like, it was just, it was a pretty seamless transition.
Although, like, because doing those injections, people have gotten really hurt doing that. So and I like the idea of having a nurse who has done this a lot.
I was going to say, I think going from new grad to that would be trickier. Where for me, it was like, I was so comfortable with needles. It was just, I don't know. I learned how to do it, and it was great.
Yeah.
And so when we created this business, me and my partner, we have a medical director, and we never wanted to be this big. I mean, we don't advertise.
You don't have your own.
We don't do social media.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time.
You don't have a separate location.
We do. So I have, well, she has her location in Saratoga Springs, and then I have mine. When I started, I just did it in a room in my house, but when we built our new house, I was still doing it. And so I built a room in my new house. It's like you're going into a med.
Yeah, but it's great. It's at your house.
Oh, it's great. So it's a separate entrance. They come down the left side of my house. And anyways, it's awesome. So I started doing that, and I've been doing that now for 5 years.
Yeah.
And my clientele is all referral based. And so it's been really neat to see, I started off, and then they told their friends, and then they told their friends. Cause like I said, we just don't have the time. Especially me I still have a kid at home. I have a 4-year-old, but when he's at preschool, I can do my appointments, and they're 15, I mean, depending on what they're getting done, sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 45.
Okay.
That's the longest an appointment lasts.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're in and out.
So
and
much more comfortable.
It's so comfortable.
And you don't have people throwing things at you.
And people like come and they're happy, and they leave and they're happy. And they're, it's just a very different type of nursing.
Yeah.
I do, I have a lot of clients who have really bad TMJ.
Okay.
And they come in just for that. And
it helps to relieve some of the pressure.
You inject into that masseter muscle. And and I have a lot of clients who also have really bad migraines. And Botox, there's a whole migraine protocol for Botox in the back of the neck and the forehead. But also just doing this forehead and scowl lines and kind of freezing those muscles. I have clients that don't even care about the wrinkles, but they're coming to get their migraine relief.
Really?
Yeah. There's some people in our ward. Like there's
Really?
So my philosophy with injections is you just want to look natural.
Yeah.
You never want to look like you had a lot of work done. And so if people come to me and they say, I want to look a certain way, that's not how I inject. I just kind of say, there's other injectors, but for me, it's just enhancing your natural beauty. And whether that's, if whatever area it is, I just am trying to enhance. And it's funny because, some people, it's their first time. They're like, I don't want to look different. I don't want to look frozen. I don't want to look weird.
Right.
And I'm like, you won't. You're coming to me for a reason. You will not. And, I have people who say, oh, my husband just keeps saying, your skin just you look so like glowing and healthy. And they have no idea that they got Botox. I mean, I'm always like, tell your spouse. You should tell them. But they're like, it's just, or, I notice in pictures, I'm always like, have these huge lines and now they're smooth, and I feel a lot more confident. And each to their own. Every person has their thing, whether it's they're dyeing their hair or, their nails or whatever it is. And if yours is you don't want the deep lines in your face, and a lot of people do it preventatively. They don't want as they get older, they don't want to have really, and that's great. And it's
I know.
been
Look at mine.
oh no, you look great. You look great. But it's been a really nice transition from the ER and ICU to doing injections as aesthetic nurse.
Okay. No, I love that. And I love talking to you about it too, because I've always been kind of afraid of that kind of thing. I'm
There's a
like,
really negative stigma.
there kind of is.
And that's why at first I was like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And I was also like pregnant. So I'm like, I'm not getting it myself. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I learned after years that there shouldn't be, because if it's done right,
Yeah.
like you probably have no idea how many women in the neighborhood get it on a regular basis, because
Yeah.
they still have full movement in
Yeah.
their face. It's just instead of having these really deep
Do you
creases.
do it too?
So I have it. I don't do a lot because I'm still pretty young,
Yeah.
but I do some in my forehead.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Maybe we need to go and have a session.
No,
and see, like,
no.
get rid of some of these.
So yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it in my forehead.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, as women, especially women, I do men too, but as we age, we lose a lot of the tissue in our face.
And
We
the plasticity and stuff.
Yeah, we lose collagen. We
Okay.
lose like a lot of even the fat pads. Like we lose a lot.
Uh-huh.
And so, what my goal is, whether it's filler or Botox, is to just I'm not trying to make people look 20 years younger.
Right.
I'm just trying, as we age, to have it be a graceful, natural, instead of
Gradual.
yeah. And
Okay.
whether that's, I did a whole training on a certain filler yesterday, and it's a collagen stimulating filler. So it's like we put it in this woman, and you couldn't really tell a difference right away, but
Okay.
it's like putting seeds for grass. It's basically what it's doing is it's making all this collagen form. So over time, and this is like a diluted filler.
Okay.
But over time, they say, okay, in 6 weeks, let's see where you're at. And your body it's basically putting the seeds down of
Oh.
collagen.
And then it'll just start creating
Yes.
more of it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
And that's why, because I do, like you told me to have collagen
Mhm.
and what's the other thing that I take?
creatine.
Creatine.
Mhm.
Yes, creatine. And then I'll do like a hydration or the superfoods or something like that. I
yeah.
do that every morning now. And I wasn't exactly sure why I was doing the collagen. So thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because collagen is, the base of our hair, our nails, our skin. Like
Yeah.
we want collagen. That's the one thing we lose it and you
Okay.
want it.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. So
Okay.
so I do that. I do the injections, and it's been neat to see women who have no confidence coming to me, and then after a few treatments and kind of getting to them to the point they want, they're like, I just feel so much better. I feel like my face isn't sagging, or I
Droopy.
feel like I don't
Uh-huh.
feel like I have this permanent scowl,
Yeah.
And so it's a different type of nursing for sure,
Yeah.
but I've really
Well,
enjoyed it.
and like we talk about the stigma too, and I've thought a lot about this because there is a little,
Mhm.
and things can go wrong.
Well, it's like people that look completely like plastic. And that is not how it should ever look. And that's the
Right.
opposite.
Yeah.
And I feel like our whole media is trending to more used to be like
Natural.
big
Yeah.
big
Uh-huh.
lips, big lashes, big whatever it is. And now it's kind of more natural. And so
Yeah.
it's been interesting as an injector to kind of see like, okay, like I have a really, really tiny upper lip. I want it to be more hydrated. I want it to look a little fuller, but I don't want anyone to
I
know.
don't want it huge. Yeah.
And that's my favorite kind of lip to do. It's because
Yeah.
it's like people who have really, really, especially Caucasian women have smaller upper lips.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just put a half a syringe in. It's a half of a mil.
Uh-huh.
And it totally, and they're like, no one even knows. But for me, it's huge.
It makes
I
a
actually
big
have an upper lip
difference.
now.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. Yeah. More natural. And that would totally be, but I mean, I put makeup on.
Yeah.
I put moisturizer on.
Yeah.
I take vitamins,
Yeah.
like it's not really that much of a stretch to do something like Botox or injections like that. So and we can, and we talked before about like the shots and stuff that for people to lose weight and everything. And so I've thought a lot about that too. Like, when people choose to do things to their bodies to help them to feel a little bit more confident and everything, it's not anybody else's right to judge them for those kind of decisions that they want to make, and there is a lot of money in it. And so maybe that's what bothers me sometimes is like if there are people that are preying on people, because I feel like I have to look this way. So I'm going to have to spend this money to get these injections, or I'm going to have to spend, for this pill or whatever, because, the media says that I should look like this. So part of me feels like just be happy with who you are.
Yeah.
if it's going to make you feel a little bit more confident to have, to do something different, put some makeup on, or if it, like, because you can spend a lot of money on makeup too,
Yeah.
then, but it's all choice. It's all part of somebody's agency to be able to choose how much of that they want to do. But at the end of the day, love yourself and love those around you. Like, everybody around you is a beautiful human being that has the spirit in there that is just worth everything,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
agree.
We covered today, like parenting, a lot of good parenting things and keeping structure, but at the same time recognizing that each child is
It's
different
different, has different
and
needs.
has different needs. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really important to understand. And also understanding that when we get married, we suddenly have two households that are trying to combine into one.
Yeah.
And we take the best parts of both those
Yeah.
households and we try to encourage our children
And
in
it's
that
trial and
way.
error. It's like,
Yeah.
I think that's something that people need to realize too. I mean, no one gets it right the first time.
Right. Yeah, we're all learners, right?
Yeah.
And especially, I've learned that of my own parents as I've gotten older too. And I don't know, it just seems like we're closer in age than we were when I was little,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now I have a lot more compassion for my parents for the way that they raised me because I know what it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
after you've been through it. Also talking about the stuff that you had going on with your soccer and what you learned from that and what you were able to take into your nursing program.
I think a big part of who I am is the things, whether the joys, but also the hardships. I didn't even go into when I was 8, I was diagnosed with rheumatic fever,
Oh
which
my
is almost
goodness.
like an eradicated. I mean, it's so rare, but I remember that for 5 years, I took penicillin shots every month until I was
Really?
13. Like things, and maybe that's why I'm so comfortable with needles because I had them for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
Or,
Okay. Did that keep you from having the fevers then?
so rheumatic fever is you get strep and then you don't get strep treated. So it
Okay.
happened a lot more, in the early 1900s. But
Okay.
so I guess I had strep, didn't say anything, and it went to my joints. So either goes to your heart
Okay.
most commonly, and you have to have your valves replaced, which is a big deal,
Yeah.
or it goes to your joints and you can't move your
Yeah.
joints. And anyways, it went to my joints. So I remember being at 8 primary children's, and I remember the doctor telling me I'd have to do penicillin shots because that's the treatment for strep, right? For
Yeah.
5 years. And I remember it was like the world crashing down around me. I'm like,
Yeah.
as an 8-year-old, I'm like 5 years of those huge shots that take a minute to push in because it's so thick. I would get
Wow.
abscesses. It was awful. It was awful. But
Oh.
anyways, those things that I've experienced, or I went on a study abroad to Jerusalem, and this isn't a hardship. This is an amazing experience, but I learned so much from my Arabic friends and my Jewish friends, and going to dinner at their houses and learning and living there. And I just think every person, their all the experiences they have in their life, that really makes them who they are.
Yeah.
And I think you get to choose how you come out from that. You
Yes.
get to make the choice. And whether it was my nursing experience, my humanitarian trips, raising my kids, whatever it was, that all those things, the good and the bad, kind of made me
Yeah.
who I am.
Mhm. So let me ask you just a few rapid fire questions. So what has brought you joy in the last 24 hours?
My daughter, she made a little note and cut out a little heart and went, "I love you, Mom. You're the best." And I just like have it in my purse. And I think I need those because I feel like my
Yeah.
whole life is serving them.
Yes.
And so to see just those little like, oh, you do
The little
care.
validation.
Yeah, like you do appreciate me.
Yeah.
You do love me, even though you're mad at me for making you do your reading or whatever,
Right?
like,
Yeah.
it means a lot to me. I'm like, oh,
Oh, that's really sweet. I love it. Okay. What about a good book that you've read recently?
I love to read. I read
Good.
a lot. I started a book club 9 years ago, and we still meet every month.
Really?
Just friends from
Book
college and high
clubs are
school.
the best.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
I've read so many books. I read a book called Only the Beautiful by Susan
Oh.
Meisner. Have you heard of that?
Nope.
So good. Everyone
Okay.
should read it. It's so,
Is it
so,
a
so good.
novel?
It's it's a World War II. Has to do with I don't want to give anything away, but basically what the Nazis would do with anyone who had any kind of deformity, whether it was like physical or any kind of mental illness, what they would do with them. And it was this girl's story. And it just was beautifully written. And it was very eye-opening because I didn't know this happened.
Huh?
These houses, they would put them in and they would basically sterilize them so they
Wow.
wouldn't have kids. It was fascinating, but it was such a good book.
Interesting. There's so many books about World War II.
Yes, I read so many World War II books.
Yeah, suffering really gives us a lot to think about, for sure. Okay, what about a good documentary or TV show that you like to watch?
I feel like if I get the chance, if I have like downtime, I choose to read over watch.
Yeah.
So I don't watch that much.
Okay.
I did see a movie. A friend and I last week just randomly decided to go see in the theater a movie called Eternity. Have you heard of this?
No.
It was so we were the only ones there. It was
Yeah?
like 9:50 a.m. or 10 a.m. on a Friday. It was so good. I'm not going to give it away, but it's 3 like popular actors. And basically she married the one and he went off to war and he died. And then a few years later, she married the other guy and had kids with him and were married for 67 years. And they all eventually die and they're in this in-between. You have to choose your eternity. And they're both there. And she's like, and they're like, you need to pick one of us. And she's like, how do I pick? And it
Wow.
was so, at first you would think like, I told my husband this and he said, that sounds like my worst nightmare. Why would you want to see that? But I'm like, it was so like you have to watch it to
Very
understand. But it
sweet.
was so well done, and it was just a beauty. My friends were like, that was the best movie we've seen all year.
Wow. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to have to look for that
Eternity.
one. That's awesome. Okay, what's something that you try to do every day?
Like I said, I read every day, but something different. I move my body every day.
Okay.
I exercise, whether it's I mean, I have off days with like on Sundays and stuff, but I still try to like movement. Movement, I think, is huge. And if I am sitting around all day, which I don't hardly ever do, but if I did do that, it would be hard for me.
Atrophy, yeah.
So for me,
exactly.
I have to move. Whether it's I'm lifting, I'm going on a walk, I'm playing pickleball, I have to move, do something to move my body every day.
Okay, love it. What about a charity or nonprofit that you support?
Top one off my head, this is just a seasonal, but my kids said, Mom, our school's doing this stocking stuffers for the soldiers.
Okay.
And I kind of was like, yeah, but like we do Secret Santa as a family for a family and we do this. But they were like, I have to get them stuff. And I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, like I said, it's just a seasonal.
No, but it
like
is big.
we like
great.
filled all their bags this morning with socks and puzzles and lotions, and they were so excited.
Oh,
So
and
it's
what
so
a
fun to
great
see the
thing to
kids.
teach your children to love other people. And yeah, that's a great way to do it. Okay, what do you think I should try next?
Oh, what should you try next? Let me think. Okay. I had an idea. Okay. 2 things that I thought of. I don't know if you've done these, so if you haven't, you can tell me.
Okay.
1, I love kamut bread. I make it every 2 weeks.
Kamut bread. How is that different?
So it's the Food Nanny's recipe is what I use, but
Okay.
it's my kids. I don't have it. My kids are like, "Where's your bread, Mom?" They won't eat any other bread. They love it's kamut flour is from the Middle East,
Okay.
and it's more of a nutty flavor.
Okay.
It's harder to get, but it is so good, and it's nutritionally a lot better for you than typical bread. So I make that. I can make 5 loaves at a time, and I made some Monday, and I make it like every couple weeks, and that's just what we eat as our bread.
Love
So
it.
kamut bread. Or the other thing was we've talked about exercise and stuff. I try to tell women, especially women who 30 and up, lift heavy weights.
Okay.
Women think that if they lift heavy, they're going to be bulky. They will not.
Yeah.
But the heavy, not only is it good for just your own strength, your muscle, the more muscle you have, the more you're burning fat, your metabolism is going in the day, but it's so good for your bones.
Yeah.
Genetically, my mom has to do like IV infusions because she has osteoporosis, and it's like women especially, and I don't drink a ton of milk. Like I'm not, but I got this DEXA scan and I was like so worried. I'm like, what is my bones going to show? Am I going to be? And my even the guy who did the test was like, I've never seen someone who has such strong bones. And I was like, it's because of the lift. He said that it's the lifting.
Lifting.
If you lift heavy, your bones, and there's been like falls I've taken, whether it's on a bike or skiing or whatever, where I'm like, I should have broken something.
Yeah.
And I think it's if you lift heavy, which is hard. I know it's so hard for people to like, but if you lift heavy, there's so many benefits.
I love it. Yeah, especially as you age.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much
You're
for being with
welcome.
me today. This has been so fun.
I feel like I was really chatty. Sorry.
No, this is great. This is exactly what we love. So, like having the conversations, and it's really nice to talk to people who are, just like everybody else. Like we don't want to compare ourselves to people, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to compare ourselves to people and say like, oh, okay, she had this kind of experience. It's kind of like how I did it, and
Yeah.
maybe I can try what she tried or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So.
And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine, but it's
Yeah,
always worth trying.
exactly. Yeah, I love it. So thank you so
You're
much. And thank you for
welcome.
being with us today on Sendy Mom. This has been a great chat, and enjoy the rest of your day.
In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you.